Mark Lidbetter here, sports editor of the Suburban. Welcome to another edition of Judgement Calls. And today we're going to talk a bit about catching up on some football because soccer has started, baseball has started. At this time of the year, football would be pretty well ready to kick off their regular campaign. But we're going to go to the association level, and I'm pleased to have with me today Ted Stote, president of Lakeshore Football. And we're going to see where they are and what's going on the gridiron. Ted, thanks for being here. And how are things going with the Cougars and the other associations right now?
Things are going great. I can speak, in detail about our association, and I have had conversations with some of the presidents of other associations, and I know everybody's at one point or another of getting the season underway. So some people waited a little bit longer for more confirmation before they made any arrangements. We kind of decided that no matter what happened, we were going to move forward offer the best possible program within the guidelines we were allowed. And we felt pretty confident that as soon as something opened with the group that we had in place, we'd be able to put together a program that was interesting for the kids and would still allow them to develop, that it wasn't a wasted year. So, it's been, for ourselves, we've been going for pretty well a full month already. As soon as we got the go-ahead in July, we were able to get onto small fields and start practicing without equipment a couple weeks. And we basically, as soon as we got that go-ahead, started arranging equipment pickups. So,
Now, also, put out a very detailed plan. You had 6 steps to get to, which I think you guys are probably about step 5B, as you were saying. And that's the thing. There's A and B on some of the steps. So you're right at the precipice of maybe having a season.
Exactly. So right now, basically, the 5B allowed us to practice as a team. Now, we can get into kind of the restrictions. Obviously, this is not a normal year for us, but it allowed us to start putting a program together, and we can do everything up till full contact in a team setting. So the next step, the next step to open up is the one that would allow us to have the season. So we're allowed to practice, we're allowed to do intramural, we're allowed to have contact. There's some regulations around that, but we're allowed contact. So that's basically it, where we're at right now.
And given that time frame, you get the okay from the federation and the government. There's still lots of time to have a regular season for the kids as well, like right up to playoffs and championships, I guess.
So from what I understand right now, it looks like we have bumped back 2 weeks. We used to run a 10-game season starting in mid-August, and we're looking to start the last weekend in August. This isn't confirmed yet, obviously, but this is what we're aligning for, given that, things progress, would be to have an 8-game season for the kids starting at the end of August.
And also, how has registration been? Because obviously in any of the sports, there's parents that are a little concerned. Do we, don't we? And how are the numbers doing? Not just with yourself, but if you've talked to some of the other presidents.
Well, I can say for ourselves, so we did, we took the measure that we knew we wanted to gauge where we were going to be at for in terms of when things opened up. We didn't want to spend time chasing the kids' parents down again. So we did an early pre-registration with no money, which allowed us to gauge interest and where people were at. And it allowed us to also stay in communication with everybody who had intentions of coming back. That allowed us to sign up right out of the gate about 120 kids, which for us was almost consistent with what we had all of last year. So that was great. And we're up over 160 kids now, tykes through bantam. We're not fielding a midget and above team. So the numbers are really strong. We've actually grown. And I think if it wasn't for COVID, I would expect we might be over 200 kids this year. We'd have, we'd be into, do we do some 9-man second teams, or we'd be in a whole other realm at this point. So it turns out it worked out perfect in that regard for Lakeshore. The other associations that I've spoken with, they weren't quite as ahead of things in terms of getting that, maybe not quite as optimistic as we might have been. But still, from what I understand, there's a slight drop in the numbers, but it's not catastrophic at this point. The only people that aren't running teams, believe it or not, there's a couple organizations that have decided early on that they would only be running flag. And of course, those are the organizations that aren't that aren't going to have tackle teams this year, but everybody that held off is aligned now to be able to field the team. Nobody's officially pulled out yet, and we're 3 weeks, pretty much 3 to 4 weeks ahead of when we'd be starting.
Excellent. And just so people know, what would be some of the precautions that are going on, like safety-wise for the players at practices, considering you do have that bit of contact and things?
Yeah, so one of the guidelines was, one of the main guidelines when it came to contact, because obviously this was an interesting point, how are we going to distance and have contact? So they put out a guideline of 15 minutes cumulative contact, which basically meant we have to make our practice plans based on reps. So we look at like what kind of drills we're doing, how much face-to-face and contact actual, and then basically it's a math equation. So practice planning has been very different in that regard. There's no more tight lines. Everybody's spread out in lines. The way kids wait, even warm up, we staggered the kids 5 yards, and instead of having them wait in the end zone and go back, they jog around, which keeps some extra space between them. We have some protocols in place, we've been going tackle for pretty much a month now, and we've had 0 cases in our organization in a month of tackle.
Nice.
But, if I can just add to that, but we have no parents inside our fence. So when the kids get there, they line up, 2 meters apart, they wait in line, we're taking their temperature, we're asking them the COVID questions, and we're getting them to clean their hands off before they enter the fence. Once they're in, everybody's asked we picked a fence post to make it easy, but every kid takes their bag and their own water and their hand sanitizer, puts it on a fence post. So when we take a break, everybody's not running towards a big group or a water fountain. Of course, the water fountains are off and the kids are going to their own post and back. We're meeting in a big circle before and after practice instead of a small circle. So there's a lot of yelling for the coaches, and for sure it was getting used to masks. Coaches are wearing masks when we're in proximity with the kids. When we're in under 2 meters, we got to wear that. So it's a balance of yelling from far and talking softly from close.
Calling a few audibles along the way, I guess.
Exactly. Well, that's the one hard thing. So right now, as it stands, we're not supposed to have huddles. So calling plays, it's developing new systems of how we can get all the kids to know all the plays, and be able to get them out without having the huddles, which is interesting. So football's a game of strategy always and forever, right? So for me, it was a fun challenge of it's another set of arbitrary rules that we're going to put in place and follow like we do anyway in every other team, that we put together. So.
And I guess as president also, you had to be pleased with the response that you've got, to see that the numbers are there, the interest is there, and the kids are ready to go. Now all you need is that okay for the first snap of the season.
That's it. And, and I think I'm thrilled. I'm really, really thrilled with the city of Kirkland's been great with us. They gave us clear guidelines with respect to equipment handout and what was going to work for them. And I think that really helped us because it allowed us to just really not get stuck in the details and really just respect the details that were given to us and implement and roll out the details. So that allowed us to be pretty efficient in our equipment. And actually, I think we discovered a new way to hand out equipment. It was actually more enjoyable and better than before. We had one kid come up at a time onto the landing where we were allowed to run in and out, but it was one kid per time. And it actually reduced the stress level for us instead of being in a small quarter, And it turned out really great. So some of this has been a blessing. I think it'll probably improve the way we do things.
Excellent. I want to thank you, Ted, for taking the time to be here with me today, and we can get the message out. And everybody, my judgment call on this one is that the snap of the ball and the first kickoff is going to happen. There will be a season for these kids to play. We just got to keep crushing that curve. Until next time on Judgment Calls, I'm Mark Lidbetter, sports editor of The Suburban, and you know where to find me. Any suggestions, any comments? sports@thesuburban.com. Until then, take care, and I can't even, as an old center, yell huddle up because that ain't part of it right now. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.